Okay. Big breath. Let's talk about what just happened.
Welcome, goblins, ghosts, werewolves, and witches. You've just crossed over into a shadowy realm where darkness whispers, monsters lurk, and nothing is ever quite what it seems. From bone-chilling films to nightmare-fueled TV shows to heart-pounding video games, join us as we laugh, scream, and geek out over everything that goes bump in the night. So grab your garlic, wooden stakes, and silver bullets and get ready for this special edition of Scripts and Screams. Now your hosts, Jessica Morgan and Chris Carter.
And Lizzie Morgan too.
Woo, woo, woo.
That's
Hello.
right. We're back for the penultimate episode of season 2 of The Last of Us. Lots of stuff to say. Hopefully,
that's a fancy way to put.
Well,
I know.
You know, I left my my radio gig for this. I'm freelancing tonight, people. So yeah, the penultimate, second to last episode of season 2. I think we have a lot to say. I think a lot of people have a lot to say from what I'm gathering on the internet and in some of our social circles. So we'll talk about this episode, talk about how how it's going to affect the show going forward, which I think is this big deal. But anyway, I'm with Jessica, I'm with Lizzie, and no one's going to cry. So people are going to get mad though. So
No one's gonna cry.
Oh, you can't promise that.
I can't speak for everybody. You're absolutely right. I cannot speak for
I'm a
everybody.
mad crier, and some of this has made me a little mad.
A mad crier. The Morgan
Yeah, I
household.
cry when I get mad.
Okay.
This yeah, guys, this episode this was flashback city, right? This
Yeah.
was like literally let's live in the flashbacks. Let's bring back Mr. Joel and or Mr. Miller, I guess, for Joel,
Yeah.
but either way. And so we have a lot to talk about because we got flashbacks in the game. You know, we just maybe didn't get them all at once.
Yeah. Honestly,
So-
I think I liked getting little bits. It really left you wanting
Hell
more.
yeah.
But I kind of understand why they put all of them together.
Yeah. It's so much harder in this medium, you know what I mean? Like they just kind of were like, we want you to see, especially like I think the reason they did it was timeline wise, right? Like they started and from the oldest scene and then went just forward in time. And I think they were worried that if they put it in different episodes, maybe it'd be harder for us to realize when they took place, you know what I mean? Even though they were doing birthdays, which is kind of like an easy one, but I don't know. It was an interesting choice to put them all together, and
Yeah, especially with I think that they may be breaking up the seasons to follow separate characters, so that would be difficult for them to do, and still hold that amount of gravity. And so, you know, for me, I'm going to go last on this one because I know that you two have very strong feelings about just kind of what happened in the way it was presented on the episode. But obviously Neil Druckmann directed this episode. He said that of all the episodes that have been in the show thus far, this was the most personal to him. And I think that it really comes across what's important to him from coming from the game that makes it into the series. And Jessica and I were talking about it, and I'm just going to say this before I kind of hand it off. It makes me feel that the two creators, Druckmann and Mazin, might be a little too close to some of their material because what they're talking about in the post, like wrap-up podcast and in the breakdown after the episode, doesn't seem to land exactly like it should. So anyway, I digress. I'm gonna hand it off to you, and then I'll top in some points here. So go for it. Jessica, want to take us out?
you're just like, I'm dipping out. Bye, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it some beer. I'll be back.
Well, I was gonna say we can start off with this episode. They did give us something that was brand new for all involved, which was the very top of this episode. Which kind of a thought that ended up buttoning the episode. But we got like a young Joel. I don't think that was wild. Like here's Joel as a child and Tommy, which was brand new. We did not get that in the game whatsoever. So we got a little bit more backstory for Joel. Which how did you guys feel about it?
it caught me off guard so badly. For a second, I was like, "Who are these people? What am I watching?" And then they called him Joel, and I was like, "Joel, wait, what? Huh?
Yeah.
How?" I was so lost.
It was
But
definitely a moment.
yeah, but I really enjoy them. Like always, the pre-credits or pre-opening
the cold
scenes
opens.
are just so
Yeah.
good, and
Yeah.
so I actually really liked it.
Did you? I hated it. I kind of
Really?
to me, unless I just felt like it was completely unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like if they remove that from, obviously you get the line later on in the episode. It says, if you have your own, try to do better, or maybe you'll do better, or something like that. Like for me, it's like, if you take out that first part of it, does the episode miss anything? Like, or do we lose anything from not hearing that?
Yeah, I get that.
I did enjoy that we got like a little more. There was like the backstory there as far as like Tommy was actually the one creating trouble when he was like a kid, which was more interesting to me than like, because nowadays, or or at least present time for whenever this whole thing went down, is that it's like Joel was the smuggler, and it looks like Tommy's actually like, oh, I after the fireflies I cleaned up and I'm with a wife now and kids.
Do you
and
remember on Outbreak Day, he got thrown in jail, and he
Yeah.
had to get picked up because that's where Joel was when everything was happening. He said, "You need to get me out of here, otherwise I'm in here all weekend." So
Oh yeah, that's true.
yeah, maybe pre-outbreak Tommy was a piece of shit, or a rambunctious young man, one may say. But I don't know. So
It was
I-
yeah. Good.
I'll say I liked it, but I can also see where it came off unnecessary and a little bit out of character. Like, it's never mentioned, even in the show, really, that Tommy and Joel had a bad childhood or a rough childhood or anything like that. So I think it kind of threw me. Maybe that's why it threw me off when I was like, "Oh wait, this is Joel and Tommy we're talking about." So yeah, and without it, I think the line at the end still would have been fine. Like, I hope you do better with your own kind of thing. So I see it as being, it can be unnecessary, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree too that I think you could have cut it and it probably would have been totally fine. Um, but especially because if I'm being honest, um, when we get to the end or whatever, and he said that line, to me, it actually like cheapened it all, where I just was like, so we just decided to create this button moment of like, here's the top, and then we've come full circle. Like,
Right.
I don't know why, but for whatever reason, that was the thing that cheapened this beginning scene for me. When it's like, when it stood alone, I actually enjoyed it. When it was like, but once we brought in that new line, for whatever reason, it like cheesed it up for me. Like, so I don't think the last line on the porch and stuff was as impactful, because to me, because of the fact that for whatever reason I just was like, ugh, you just were like, let's button this episode, let's do the book, what is it called, like when you bookmark
And
Bookends.
bookend it.
bookends. That's what they were doing. I kept seeing
Yeah.
button, but
Yeah.
they're bookending it.
And so I think the other part of it too was that, and again in the wrap up, the two creators were very proud of that moment. And to me, it's like it didn't really register. It was unnecessary, but in their opinion, they felt that it was very necessary. So it's like a little, going back to what I mentioned before, just a little out of touch with maybe some of the source material, which is funny to say because fucking Neil Druckmann wrote the whole damn
I
thing.
mean, I did enjoy seeing that they had a rough background, because like you do get that vibe, like if you think way back to like, very first season and first game and things like that, and it's like when Joel's like with his daughter, and like you said, Tommy's in jail and things like there's already kind of a setup of like they don't live like the rich life, like they're, you know what I mean, like there's just like this vibes about it, that it's like they are a little rough around the edges, like the jokes that he has with his kids and stuff, like his kid and things, you know what I mean, it like kind of harkens back to that, which would make sense then why like he gets along with Ellie so well and stuff. So like to me, I enjoyed having it there. I enjoyed seeing like kid Joel and how he acted and stuff, but like I said, by the end of it, I ended up feeling a little cheapened by it.
Yeah, I think out of everything that was added to this episode, this is the part that I really don't have any problem with.
Yeah.
It doesn't really affect stuff like the rest of it does. So
Good point. That's a good point. Well, just before we move on, just one last thing about that. The actor, Tony Dalton, who's incredible. I'm a huge fan of his. He, because of his performance in this little segment of it, Neil Druckmann casted him in the newest Naughty Dog game. So he now will be a character in the upcoming Naughty Dog game. And it's like, yeah, it's like sci-fi and it's coming out in a couple of years. But yeah, so he actually earned his way into that, which I thought was pretty cool because the actor's fantastic and he does great in that scene. But again, for me, this scene was completely unnecessary. But Tony Dalton's fantastic. Anyway.
And then I think we pick up, and it's like just been a couple of months, I think they said, from when Joel has been settled in at
Jackson.
at
Ellie's 15th birthday.
Yeah.
Which was cute, I think, right? We got the cake and then we get the guitar. I think all of us are really enjoying the guitar, and we got the song. I knew the song was coming. I was like, here's the song.
Jessica's like, he can make a hell of a guitar. That was very impressive to make it from
talk
scratch.
About the craftsman of this guitar. Like,
oh my God, it was amazing.
It was like,
right?
You just like know how to make guitars. And then especially like with the carving that he did of the moth, I was like, are you an artist? Like, what? This is way too nice. They make a joke later where he's like, it's not as good as, your tattoo looks better than my carving. And I was like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, I was like, that's really impressive. I did like how he geeked out about the Dremel. And he's like, oh, it could be this, it could be this. It's actually a really good tool.
Dremels are really good tools. We need Dremels. So.
Dremels are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it was totally like, that was, yeah. I mean, it's funny because there is in the game, there's a craftsman level to it. Like he makes things as part of the game. So it's kind of funny, like, and it's not quite exactly a one-to-one thing, but it's felt a little bit like we were looking at that. And then, we got the sweet little song there, which I kind of enjoyed. It was definitely this wasn't like a direct, some of these scenes that we get later are like, oh yeah, this is like straight out of the game.
Yeah.
And this is one that I was like, oh, this isn't quite like how we get it in the game, It
was added to, this is the part that I had like the least problem with, where they stuck to the game but just added a little bit extra.
Right.
But stayed on topic.
Yes. Yes.
That's what I had problem with later on in this episode. But all this stuff, the banter between them, Bella makes such a good 15-year-old, and
yes,
I saw it in this. I was like, she did great last season,
right? And
she's doing great in these ones, but when she ages, it's just not hitting for me.
She's unlikable. Like we had a friend over there.
Whoa.
Well, the character is unlikable in the instance where it's like, she goes from being like the first couple birthdays, and obviously the circumstances change, but like she's not a bratty little pain in the ass. She's kind of an unlikable character in the current version we have of her, but in the flashbacks, she's a little more likable. And also, let's be fair too, like in those scenes, it's Pedro and Bella. Like there's a give and take. It's not Isabella Merced and Bella Ramsey. You know what I mean? So like the level of talent kind of bouncing off, it really comes across, especially in that porch scene, which.
So you think chemistry?
I don't know if but I do think chemistry, but also talent. I mean, I think. Well, maybe it is. You know what? Maybe
I'm confused on the comparison of
maybe it is chemistry. Because when you have a really good scene partner, they can get certain emotions out of you, I'd imagine. And so I think seeing Joel, and obviously the subject matter too, right? The Joel and Ellie kind of porch scene. That's what I'm talking about. And also maybe the capsule scene, because you kind of see them very happy and then also very sad and emotional in the porch scene. And I think that just them in that moment, because, and they brought this up at the podcast, Joel doesn't say much at the porch scene. He says maybe 15 words, maybe 10 words. He says everything with his face, which is incredibly, that's massive talent. So, for him to kind of have that moment with her and be that effective without saying much, that's what I mean by like talent on the acting base, but also the chemistry for her to react to what he's saying. And honestly, this is the most I've liked Bella Ramsey this whole season. I mean, so I think having Pedro Pascal,
her acting as a younger person.
Maybe, yeah.
I was gonna say, like, it's a good point you guys are bringing up that like we believe her as the young Ellie. It's just that there was like, it doesn't feel like there's a progression into what is current times for a 19-year-old, I guess. Let's just say Ellie. You know what I mean? So I do get that. I don't. Yeah, so I don't know if I agree with the whole unlikable character. I don't think she's
come on.
What? I
I
just
think
don't agree with it. I think she's still bratty and she still comes off young, and I think that's makes that sure, if you don't like that, that's fine. And the only reason I don't like it is because we know what it came out of the game as and things like that. And but I don't know if everyone feels that way. I don't know, you know what I mean? But I do think that like having her still kind of play this young role I can agree with that.
I will say they made some changes in this episode from how it happens in the game that made me like her less.
Oh,
Like, let's talk
details.
about the Eugene thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's a very sad situation.
Bro, bro.
And I wanted to be like, the moment he said, I swear, I was like, well, he's dead. Eugene is dead. But I wanted, even then, I was like, it is so mean to Catherine O'Hara's Gale therapist person to tell the truth right there. I was like, Bella, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Ellie.
Ella.
Dang, Ellie.
We
Sorry.
should call her Belly. Let's start calling her Belly. Let's start doing
Belly.
that.
Belly.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not the actress's fault, but that moment made her much more unlikable to
Again,
me.
it's true. By the way, that's a good
Well,
that's a
like,
great point too.
I'm
Like,
gonna make
yeah.
Joel feel bad about his decision.
It was
even though it's-
punishment.
But also
100%.
she used that woman's grief for her own
Mhm.
objective, which is again,
Yeah.
man. Also, this is your
But
dad. You don't
to
sell
me-
out your family to some.
You
I
guys,
don't know.
to me, that was the closest we have had to Ellie in the second game, in my opinion, because of the fact that she is so vengeful and stuff in the second game. She says mean stuff. She is just straight up, this is my goal and this is it, and it doesn't matter. So to me, that moment in where she just is just like, no, this is what happened, and it's like a punishment to Joel in that moment. I was like, that actually is the closest I think that we've gotten to Ellie in the second game. Because it could have been a bitchy move. It could have been being selfish, but that is kind of what she is in the second game.
Yeah. I understand that. I just think
Yeah,
it
same.
made her a less, because it came out of such a, I don't know. It's just more that instead of it happening in private and her going off on him, it happened in front of this grieving woman
Yeah.
who I was just like,
It was
oh,
really fucked
they're,
up.
I was like, they are, I mean, they're telling Joel like you're horrible and they're making it understandable why Gail, the therapist, hates him
Yeah.
or is not okay with him because he did what protocol called for, but he also freaking lied about it. So it was
Yeah.
just this thing of like, call him out, but call him out in private. My God, this
Yeah.
girl is just like heartbroken. Her husband
Eviscerating
just
her
died.
dad.
But it's true. Like
Yeah.
he was playing the savior, and like she was like hugging him and
Yeah.
like it remorse. And I
Oh
was
my
just
God,
like,
yeah.
I feel like that was such a good. Like I mean, don't get me wrong. I was like, oh dang, but it was like, I don't know. I actually,
Yeah.
I don't get
I
me
mean,
wrong.
it
I
made
was
Pedro
heartbroken by.
Pascal
Yeah.
come off as like, Joel, what
Joel.
the fuck? You're fucking
Yes.
messed up. Like, to say he shot himself too and he was perfectly fine with it and blah blah blah, and he said it was like,
I kept being
I
like,
almost
are they
wanted
not
her
going
to
to
be
look
like,
at the body? Like he was shot in the back.
yeah. And
I was like,
in fact, I expected her to almost call out and be like, my husband would never say that.
I know, right? Like you were hoping for it.
I see. It's
Yeah.
funny. This moment, like I completely agree with what Joel does. Like it's wild. Like he protected everybody by.
Well, that's
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like to me, and again, that is his character, right? But also to look past that, and Jessica even said it, she's like, that's what you would do, wouldn't it? Which I wouldn't do that. But at the
But you
same
just
time,
said you
I
did
see the
agree with
logic. I do see it. Like, it's like, what if he does turn? What if he goes wild? And what if all of a sudden 2 people get bit and then 2 people become 4? And like, I kind of see it. And also, Druckmann even says it at the end. And again, I'm not going to quote too much Druckmann, but it's like in Joel's mind, he's protecting everybody. He's protecting himself. He's protecting Ellie. He's protecting his brother. He's protecting Jackson. Like there are rules, and because you get bit, yes, it's sad. But if the point, you know what I mean? Like to me,
It's so heartless.
Yeah.
I disagree.
It's one of those things where he followed the rule, but I disagree with exactly how he did it. He didn't need to lie about it. He didn't need to be like, oh,
Right.
I don't know. It was so mean. And also I was like,
No.
if you're not gonna do it, then don't tell Ellie, or like, I promise. Like,
promise.
no. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I understand that is, what happens to everyone. And even then, if he could have just gone to the wife and said, like, we didn't have time to make it back. He was bit, we didn't have time to make it back, and I had to shoot him. And that would have been a lot, like it would have been a lot more truthful, though not the
Yeah.
truth. And I think it would have been a lot more painful than to hear all that stuff and then Ellie come out and be like, he's lying. He shot him in the face.
Right.
And you're spot on, Liz, in the sense that that's, you know, if we go back to Gail and like the second episode, first episode, whatever, it's like she said that to him. She's like, I don't agree with the way, it was the way you did it.
Yeah,
That
the
was the
way.
thing that was the problem for her. It was the way you did it. So exactly what you're saying.
And I
is
was like, and that's what my problem. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
and I was just like, Ellie, this poor girl is. I was like, Ellie, do this at a different time.
So you guys, but that scene.
It is, yeah. I was like, I can see. So I think this is where my problem stems from, because this scene changes the last porch scene, and I don't like the changes they made there. So I think it's all stemming back to this, and it makes me upset.
So my point was going to be like, of, you know, this whole season, we've talked about that there's been a lot of changes from the game. And in season 1, there were a lot of changes from that game, but they were done really well. So even though they changed things, it was like, it still felt like it was true to the game. It still felt like it was like, you know, the same vibes. And if anything, we just deepened some moments and stuff, which felt really good, right? Like it wasn't the same experience, but we enjoyed it because it was like, it still felt truthful and similar enough or whatever.
Well, and it enriched
That's
the
like
world
the
too.
birthdays that they've done in
right?
this episode.
Well, yeah, but what birthdays? Well, yeah. But like, I guess it from yes, and they also enriched it from last season too. Like all the side stories were great. None of them were bad. So anyway,
Right,
I'm just to add your point.
No, totally. And so I'm saying this scene for me was that. This was like, this is the moment that I do think that they shine when like Craig Mazin gets brought in, and it's like we took a character that didn't exist in the game, we gave him a story, we gave a reason for like for them to go through this. They changed the way that Ellie found out, like, or at least confirmed that Joel did lie to her and stuff like that. But the way that the scene is built all around it, where they run into him and the I promise and the way it's done and him lying and then her calling him out for it, all of that to me did feel truthful to the game. And it to me was like, I actually feel like I would be happy with it, like with that scene in itself. Like I would be like, you know what? I actually am okay with this change and I like the scene. I think it feels truthful to the game. I don't know if I feel like that for a lot of the rest of this episode, but I just want to say like that scene to me, if I package that alone, I kind of was like, I think I'm kind of happy with it. I kind of really like the addition of it. And I like that we got to see that moment of Joel not being this perfect person, you know, like this person that we all think is just completely, it's that whole black and white. It's not that, it's very gray. And there's very times that he does do these things that like, you know, is selfish or like it's heartless. Like I said, to me, it's like he's taken the emotion out of it and he's just like executing. And this was a moment that I was like, I'm happy we got to see that again, and as opposed to just in that Ellie moment, because it kind of like, it lets you know, it's like, yeah, like when we get to Abby and the choice and all these things, it's like, you kind of are like, you know what? He wasn't always a great dude. Like he isn't always that. Like there are people out there that don't like him or that he has hurt, whether he meant to or not. He just didn't care if he hurt them in that moment. You know what I mean? So to me, that's just my little. I just have to stand up and say this really quickly. I know it may not be everyone's agreement, and I have other issues with this
Fucking
episode,
boo.
but I gotta say, like this scene in this episode, this was for me the shining moment of this episode, was this scene that we are talking about. I think everything else around it kind of fell short for me, if I'm being honest.
I have no problem with the scene in itself. Yeah, Ellie comes off as bad because it just comes off as bad. And I think Joel did it in the wrong way and stuff. I have nothing wrong with the scene. I have a problem that they use this scene to replace important scenes in the game that I think they should have had come after this scene. How she found out.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
took those out.
Do you think you can talk about that where it's not a spoiler, it doesn't talk about what would come up in the future of the game, but just like the scenes that we are now missing, kind of a thing?
Or do we run spoiler flag?
As long as I can talk about what
Okay.
those scenes included.
Well, that's
like
yeah,
in the
like
game
oh,
because
I
it's already
can't.
passed. They're not gonna use
Yes.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Can you speak to that then? Go ahead.
yeah, because I mean, after this episode, I was like, well, I remember her knowing before the porch. So let me see when she figured it out in the game. And I watched, and there's an episode, not an episode, part in the game where they find some people, a dead body, and they're like, oh, I think this is the couple that left like a year ago and stuff. And they're dead. One of them's turned, one of them's dead. They find a note, and Ellie says, if only they were immune. And Joel kind of pauses, and she brings up, like, oh, I have questions. Why did you take me when I was still unconscious? If there's all these other people who are immune, why aren't we hearing about them? Which they only just brought up in this episode. They kind of ignored that last season and
Mm.
stuff.
That's right. That's right.
And brought up all that, and he was like, I wish things could have changed, but it can't. It's not possible. There was no cure. Like, I'm telling you what happened. Just straight up lies to her. And so she leaves in the middle of the night, and she goes back to that hospital in Seattle or somewhere else, um, and finds the truth. Finds that, hey, she was the only one who was immune.
Mhm.
Joel killed a bunch of people, took her out, and he follows her, and she says, tell me now or I'm gone. Tell me the truth or I'm gone.
Yeah.
And if you tell me the truth, I'll go back to Jackson. And he relents and he tells the truth. And she breaks down and then says, we're done. I'll go back
Yeah.
to Jackson, but we are done. And it gives her this time of processing that we don't get in the show. And it kind of, there are just things I realize now because they changed that changed Ellie's attitude in scenes where I was just
Mm.
like, man, she seems completely pissed off with Joel in the dance scene, the kiss scene with Dina, whatever. Whereas in the game, she was not super pissed off. She was kind of like, Joel, I don't need your help. But in
No,
the
she still
she
tells him to back off. She
she
just doesn't
she said yeah, but
embarrass him.
yeah, but Bella Ramsey, Ellie in the TV show goes, I don't need your fucking help, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, wow, you hate him right now.
We should look up what the exact words are because it's pretty close. But you're right that in the show it's a lot like he comes off way more like it's way more embarrassed and stuff as opposed to
Yeah.
like her just brushing him off, like being like back off kind of a thing.
I
Also,
looked
that was
back and I was like, all these things that I was kind of like, man, it's changed the way, like the dynamic between them because she's so angry. It makes sense in this episode, and I don't totally agree with it because in the game, it shows that she had more time to process what Joel did.
well,
Do you
she
think
gets 9 months. Like that's the thing. Like she gets 9 months from
Not not necessarily though. On the porch, she says, "I think I always knew, but what happened?" And that's when he tells her.
Oh, I see. So when she has like confirmation of it, not when
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, then it is what fucking yeah.
It is interesting because they do I didn't I'll be honest, I didn't miss the whole going to the hospital scene because to me there wasn't a lot in it and it wouldn't have translated well on screen because it's like she finds a recording that like someone has that kind of confirms who she was and that they were going to do this and all. So I didn't miss that scene, but I'm with you that it's like the porch scene was different in that it's like yeah, in the game, I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. For one, we get the scene way later, but for two,
Yeah.
when and that's part of, I will say that too. That's part of like these whole flashbacks is that we are now getting them crunched together all together, as opposed to like in the game, we kind of have space anyways to process on our own. Well, like here, we're just having to get it. But you're right. She gets confirmation like fully from him at a different time. Then they kind of have space between them and the porch is specifically there just to make up, right? Like just to kind of have
Yeah.
like the like, hey, I still am pissed at you. You still took this away from me. Like it's like you know what I mean? It's the hey, we've had the terrible fight. We've said we're no longer friends kind of thing, but then eventually we will come and kind of go ahead and try to close that chapter and that's that moment. So they still do that in the scene, like where she has the line at the end of like, I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, but I want to try.
Yeah.
But I'm with you that it's like it's pretty immediate. They did change even like in these other flashbacks we get, you kind of are seeing it already where she's already thinking about it a lot and she's having reactions to him along the way. You know what I mean? And it's like she just decides immediately after the whole you promised and you swore that 'cause that's her that's the moment they replaced it with is it's like when she calls him out and she looks at him and says you swore to me that was her having that moment with him where he knew it's like you that's it. This is exactly, you know what I mean? So even though we
Yeah.
revisited it on the porch and then she kind of explained it more for all of us, I don't know. I felt a little bit okay about it because of that. Because I was like, that was a like as soon as she said you swore, I'm like, oh, she's referencing the other thing because he said I promise. So like that was at least
They say
it
that too. That's
Yeah.
that's confirmed in the wrap up.
right.
Yeah.
And so, but I get what you're saying because the porch scene it was different. There was so much more to it now. It
Yeah.
wasn't just about reconciliation. It was like, let's actually confront this more. And then
Yeah, I feel like it changed the tone, and it was one of again, I hate to be like a game purist, but I watched the game scene and I was like, because I was like, I don't I remember she had found this out earlier kind of thing. Am I remembering wrong? And the first part of the porch scene is pretty much line to line, whatever. But there's just a different tone of anger in the
mhm,
show, whereas in the game it was more kind of like resigned. I'm angry at you, but I'm more disappointed almost. It was almost a sound of like disappointment and like, okay, let's talk about this instead of coming
yeah,
at
for
it
the porch
very
scene.
angrily. Yeah. And so I think, yeah, it was very much of a I'm mad at you, but it's okay kind of thing. Whereas in the game, it felt more like I'm mad at you. And then some time went by and they were like, I'd still like to try because I still love you and you still love me, obviously, with the Dina thing. So
Yeah.
it changed it for me too much. it
Yeah.
did.
And like, I think we'll have to talk about it in spoilers because for me,
Hey.
we're not
Sorry.
ready for it yet.
Oh,
Not
sorry.
yet.
All right,
We
all
get
right.
to that because I do think the positioning of where we're seeing this versus where you do in the game, I think it influences the hell out of
Oh
this
yeah.
scene.
It made
So
me
yeah,
yeah.
so we'll get to that a bit later because we don't want to talk about that with people who have not played the game and are gonna stick around for
Yeah.
more seasons.
How
Um,
do you guys feel about the whole moth symbolism? I found the therapist thing so freaking funny.
that
Where
scene it was just the whole like, oh no, butterflies are that, and then she's like, Death, if you leave that shit.
and then he's just quiet and she's like, "And what's going on?" And he's like, "Goodbye." Just
I know.
leaves.
That was a pretty entertaining scene. I know I was yeah, I was kind of we the things we didn't get in the game, we got here where it was like we got to have a moment of actually she burnt herself. I mean, we don't get to see it happen, but we confront
Yeah.
talking about it where she got a chemical burn. I think in the game we were just told about that she did it to herself. So now we just got to see and kind of the right aftermath of that.
Yeah.
Um and then the process of the tattoo kind of a thing. I don't know. I was kind of here's to be honest, I was sort of whatever about these scenes. That's kind of how I felt about them. Is I was
I see, this was one of those things where I was like, "Oh, we know these things happen, but it's kinda cute to add it to it." I'm
sure.
just sad about the scenes they took out.
Well, okay, so the part of the problem I have with it is it like this was a great episode to reestablish like why Pedro's so great and what they had, but like in the grand scheme of things, you're only going to get, and this is me kind of knowing what's coming. I'm not going to talk about it until we're in the flag up, but like what what's coming up, and there's so much to be done, and we burned a whole episode on a flashback, like. You know what I mean? I understand that it's imperative to know, and for Ellie to know that she was right, right? She was right all along, and that Joel kind of comes clean, and they have that post, on the porch, which again we're going to talk about because it for me it cheapens that moment too. But I felt like it was a poor way. It was a poor use of time, and when they don't have a lot of time left, and like again. For people who didn't listen last week, next week's episode is the second shortest episode of the season. This episode was the longest. So, anyway, that's where I kept thinking to myself, is something else? Are we going to progress the current story outside of these flashbacks? Like, that's where, for
You were
me,
super disappointed by that.
yes.
I
Yeah.
I wonder if them not knowing if they were gonna have another season made them feel like they had to put it in. And I do agree with you.
Oh,
I think
I don't
interesting.
know,
I
maybe.
think they should have separated out the things, kept them, as actual flashbacks, not one big flashback. But I feel like that scene on the porch is so important in the game that if they didn't know they were going to have another season, they were like, well, we got to put it in. And I think it was a mistake.
So they referenced that. This will be the last one I talk about, I promise, in the post wrap up. They said that because they knew that they were going to get another season, by the time that season wrapped up and it became relevant to go back to tell Abby's or Ellie's story with Joel, it would have been too long. Too much time would have passed. This is coming from the writer.
Yeah, that was my thought too, because I kept bringing that up before, which is that like in our spoilery section of other
All
episodes, it's like
right.
because I was like, yeah, if the porch scene comes up, we all of us were being like, we got to hold on to it. Please don't show it too early. Got to wait till towards the end because that's when we get it. You know what I mean? But it is kind of fair that it's like, how do you remind people of that moment of walking by and then but I'm gonna be honest, people. Guess what? Like most people binge this stuff. We would have been fine. There's so many other shows I've watched that like reference something small that was seasons ago, and I'm like, hold on, that's something, but I don't know what. And then I have to go back
Fucking
and look.
Game of Thrones made a living on that. They'll
Yes,
make
I
us.
think
Yeah.
totally. Like that,
I
it
think
kind of
it
feels like a bad reason.
would have been totally fine if they just showed the kiss thing, that getting angry and her walking past the porch and then coming back.
That's actually
And
that's totally fair because they flipped to his POVs, so it's like we still got the scene, but a little bit different. And you're
yeah,
right, like that they could have just done that.
I was like, I don't know how long it took me to play the game, but it was a while. But I didn't the porch scene happened and I was like, "Oh my gosh. This is this is after the party." Like
I
I
mean, that's
remembered,
fair. Yeah. Of course you
but
remember.
of course I remember, but I think it would have been smarter to spread these things out, and even if you have to put some of them in next season to have you
It
remember
would
that
have
she's
been.
having flashbacks, whatever. I think it was a poor choice to make it all onto one episode and drop it all at one time. It just
It's a poor use
I
of
think
time.
it was their episode of saying, "Oh, she knows what happened," but I was like, because I think that's what they were trying to do. Because last episode,
Yeah.
it ends on, "Oh, I know what he did," kind of
Yeah.
thing, and
It's a
then they go into
change from
this.
the
Yeah. Right.
totally.
Yeah,
That was a big change from the game where it's like she, who's the girl that gets killed then?
Nora.
Nora no like says in the game and in the show, do you know, like, do you know what he did? That's what she asks her, do you know what he did? And in the game, you don't hear
she
about it.
doesn't answer.
Doesn't answer. She just goes back to asking about Abby and then beats her up and all that stuff. So here in the season being like, oh, having her be like, I know, that was a huge reveal. So it does make sense that they were like, at this point, we're gonna show you that. You know what I mean? Like, let's just show
Yeah.
you that she did fully know.
But
Um,
even then, they could have just put in the scene, if they had done the game stuff, of her finding out, and they could have left it at that and still had 2 more episodes and used these flashbacks in different
right.
areas. I
And
don't like that they put it all at one time and they put it where they put it.
Well,
I don't agree with it.
something else to think about too. It kind of, by what people do, it kind of tells you how they're going to, I think, show the next part of the story, because we're getting all of Ellie's stuff this season, right? We're getting it all jammed
which we
down our
can't talk
throat.
about what the next part of the story is.
I
'cause
know
that's a
that, but I
spoiler thing.
can say that if the other stuff is coming and we're getting all of Ellie's stuff, then we can assume that we'll get.
No.
We
Can't talk
we
about
aren't.
we already talked about anything. Okay, you were
Yeah.
so ready for
And
spoilers,
that's
but I'm not done talking.
That's not true. Anyway.
It is
Yeah,
true.
it is not true. Actually,
It's
I was
true.
gonna
You'll see.
but
No, it's not.
You'll see. Maybe I know things you guys don't know.
Oh my
No.
goodness.
No.
Jessica, how do you feel, Jessica?
Chris gives me such a headache sometimes. Especially because
You're
I'm
the one who married
just
him.
for all audience members, I am so anti-spoiler for anything ever. And Chris is like, I will look up spoilers online.
It's
and then
information. Sorry, my degree is in
Information.
journalism. Like,
I think because I think you were right when you said earlier that, like, because of these changes they made, they kind of had to go with this, or you know what I mean? Like they were influenced by it, and it makes sense. Like we are getting these scenes with like the arm burn, with the especially with the tattoo part. It's like we you know she wants to move into the garage at that point right after the tattoo part, and it's like there's already a tension between her and Joel, that feels like more than just teenage angst or whatever, you know what I mean? Like she's already kind of lashing out at him, and I think it stems back to that. It stems back to there's this thing that's bothering her. I really loved that we had the flashback scene. I mean, it's pretty iconic, the one with the dinosaur, and then we get into the spaceship thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an iconic scene for the game that they went and took and brought it into here, and it's great. And it is her as a kid, as we talked about. It's her still being really young, and I think she does great in it because of that. And then right at the end of it, when they're leaving the museum, she looks over and she's staring off, and he's kind of like, come on, we're moving on, and she's staring at fireflies. And it's like that's such a, to me, I love that part of the game in general, and I love that they put it in here because it's nice. It's like there's something still there. She's having a great time. They're bonding. They like, he really cares about her. He knows her deep down and is like her interests, her loves, or whatever, right? He's treated her to this amazing birthday, and then literally she's standing there looking at these things. And to me, it was really nice symbolism there of the whole like, hey, back your mind, it's still there. You're pretending, you're ignoring this something, but there's like this thing there. And I think that was well done. But then we get into these flashback scenes and we start to see that she is like angsty with him and stuff, and she's mad at him, and we don't, we're like, what is this? And I think it is supposed to stem from this idea that she kind of knows, like she kind of doesn't want to admit it. Like she says on the porch eventually, I think I always kind of knew. Um, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the scenes. Like they just, I don't know why. They just don't feel great to me. They don't feel like I said, I enjoy the Eugene scene. I'm like very like, this feels so good, even though it's terrible and I hate it. And the whole time I'm like, don't do that. Don't be like that. But these other ones didn't feel, I kind of was like, ah.
Yeah. I was like, I still think they could have separated the scenes. Fine with Eugene scene, but if they had done the scenes missing from the game, or even of her trying to figure out the truth instead of just assuming it,
Yeah.
and or confronting him about it and then being mad, and not having that part be in the porch scene,
Yeah.
I think I would have been more okay with it. Even if they had done it in a different way, even if she says, I think I always knew,
Mhm.
like I wanted that scene and I needed it to be separate from the porch scene, because the porch scene is supposed to have a totally different meaning than I'm upset. I don't know. It just I didn't like
Yeah.
it.
That's fair. Chris, anything else before we go into spoilers?
Nope. I'm ready to hit it. Are you guys ready for
I
spoilers?
could tell.
Okay, I'm
Ready.
running it. I'm running it now. We'll be back. Stick around.
Stick around.
Did he just say stick around over the we'll be back? Stick around.
I did not.
Stick around.
Contractually, I'm not allowed to speak over Arnold. He makes it very clear that nobody speaks over him.
But you're
Nobody
allowed to
speaks
say
over
his-
me.
But you're allowed to say his line and then he says his line.
I can preempt his line. All right. Well, it's my favorite time. So, all right. Should we talk about the big change in the porch scene? We've referenced it pretty much all night so far. So, should we talk about why
If
we
you've
think?
played the game, oh my god, I think I can't imagine anyone who's played the game not feeling similar to this, to having like
Yeah.
Fucking being robbed. We were
the
robbed.
whole lead up to like we were in the party and we're seeing his point of view, like the barn party or whatever it is, and I was like, oh god, are they gonna do the porch scene? That's
Yeah.
all I could think was, I was like, oh my god, please no. And they did, and then he's on the porch and I was like, cut away, and then they start to slowly show her come back and I was like, no.
Hey, you
I was
called.
like,
You called
they
it
can
too.
still stop it. They can still stop it with
Yeah.
her walking by. And I was like, they're not gonna.
Jessica called it too. Like when we were first talking about it, when we first saw it, she's like, well, how are they going to do it? It's like, well, she's just going to walk past and come back to him. And that's exactly what happened. So, yeah.
It's nice they did that, but why did they have to bring it in now? And okay, so here's the hugest, biggest question that Chris is going to want to talk about. And it is, when we actually do get to the end of the game, but in the show, and we have that point, where they finally face off and she decides, like the full face off, and she decides to let her go and all that stuff. Is that just where the show's gonna end now? Like
Yeah.
this was the scene we got after that, the porch scene, which gave us like this weird. Okay, don't get me wrong. Yeah, we went back. I forgot. We go back to the
The
bar or
house.
her house.
Yeah. Dean is
House. She's
gone.
playing the
and-
guitar
Dina.
without being able to play it.
Yeah.
It's so
Um,
terribly sad, but it's like having the porch scene was just like the last moment of like, and it's so conflicting, right? Because it is like they were gonna try, and that is heartbreaking, but it's also like they didn't. The last note wasn't at the dance. Like she didn't
Yeah.
end on a terrible note with him. Like they actually ended on like an understanding and a we will try, and that felt somewhat hopeful for a
Hell
very
yeah.
dismal ending.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was like that silver lining that no longer mattered. She had lost everything that connected her to Joel. She had lost everyone else around her,
Mhm.
but she had that memory of me and Joel were going to be okay, but we never got to actually be okay.
And it mattered for the
Yeah.
player. I mean,
I know.
and it mattered for the player so much because
tears.
I read an article and someone was saying that one of the big knocks against Last of Us, the way it could go is it's like a grief simulator. Like, yeah, it tells a compelling story, sure. And I think for the people that played it really liked it, but it was very sad. And at the end of it, what is the message? Like, what are you trying to convey? In this moment, after we get the what we're talking about is after the big confrontation, Ellie goes home, Dean has left her, the baby's left her, the house is empty, like all the farm animals are gone. Like
The baby left her, like the baby packed
the,
up and left.
the baby got in the car and drove away. And and maybe the moment, maybe the message was, hey, at least you can try and you never know. But that's gone. I mean, for me, it cheapens this moment. And to be fair, if you didn't play the game, and I keep going back to that, and I'd love to
Yeah.
talk to somebody that didn't. This scene is fantastic. The scene
It
at
is
the
a pretty
porch,
scene.
right? It's great. It's so good. It might be one of the best episodes of the entire series. And I don't mean season 2, but I mean season 1 and 2. And so if you didn't know where it went in the grand scheme of the game, would it bother you if you're just a watcher of the show? Like Katie, does Katie care? Does my brother David care? Like they might just be like, that's a really cool scene. It's perfect where it's at.
I'm where it's really well done. Like it's really well acted. It's emotional as hell. I did feel in that moment again, like I was having like this was the moments I was like, I don't think you can say Bella's a bad actor because this is a moment where she's totally shining again, in my opinion.
Yes, she's great in this
but
part. Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's like for the scene itself, it was really, to me, it was a beautiful scene. It's a beautifully done scene. Even the questions and the way he's answering, like you said, the emotion in his face, it's all well done. It's just that moment where you're just like, but I know what it was and what it could be. And
Yeah.
that's where it hurts, And so I'm with you. I'm like, does this feel good to people who haven't played the game? I'm curious about it too, And then I'm like, where are they gonna end this eventually? How is this gonna end?
Yeah.
Like,
That's the worst part. That's the worst part.
they're gonna change it, I think.
Yeah, and I go back to what you said, Jessica, with that line of "I hope you do better," cheapened it, and I was like,
Mhm.
"There's a baby now. We know about the baby. Like, whatever."
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, is that what we're trying to? So maybe that's
Yeah.
it. Maybe they're gonna change the ending. And she's gonna be like, I want to do better.
She's
And
still gonna be at the farmhouse. when she
still,
comes
yeah, and
back.
Tommy will be the one.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how Tommy gets so mad, and I don't know. They've changed a lot with Tommy, but yeah, it made me really sad, and I instantly I finished the episode, and I went and watched that scene, and yeah, just Ellie in the scene when Joel says, "I do it again," she's just like, "Yeah, you would," kind of thing, and
Yeah.
says like, "I just can't give you for it, but I
But
want
I
to."
want to try. Yeah, I want to try.
Yeah, and it's very much like yeah, I know you would do it again. That is who you are, Joel.
Yeah.
But I still love you, and I want to forgive you, even though I'm really hurt by this thing
Yeah,
you
you
did.
hurt me terribly, but it's still an understanding.
Yeah.
And
Also,
I'm with you.
it's crazy because if I talked to my mom that way, she'd have smacked my ass the way it's like. I tell you, so a Mexican family would not stand for that type of back talk from their kid. It would be fucking over. The Walker would not get Ellie. It would be the mother.
I
All right. But here, Lizzie, you said something, and I want to bring it up before I forget it, about how they have to bring Tommy into that moment going forward. I think it's going to happen because have you noticed how they've built up Tommy and Jesse? Like how they
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? So we're in spoiler flag. So now that, Jesse's going to get his face blown off. So that happens when Tommy's there.
It's so
Like, you know what I
I
mean?
am
Like,
so sad about it. Like I love
again,
Jesse. I love the
it's
actor
a
they
grief
picked him.
simulator. Like,
I know.
It's just so sad. It was so sad in the game.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at the what's to come next
Yeah,
time, like
it's-
preview episode,
yeah.
I think we're all spot on in what we've been saying, where it's like it's gonna end in the theater. I think it's 100%. There's just a quick little glance of Jesse and Ellie running up through the seats of the house of a theater, like they've heard something terrible and going that way. And that was enough that I was like, that's gonna be where it ends. Like,
That's how he gets shot, right? He just enters the room and
Yep.
is dead immediately.
immediately.
Yeah. Okay. then-
Even in
yeah.
the thing, he's like, "I'm not gonna die here," and I was like, "You are, Jesse. You are."
Lizzie's got that premonition feel to it.
Now that I'm thinking about that, I'm like, we still have so much game.
That's I
to
know.
go through.
So that's why
That's
I
what
was
we were-
getting mad.
Are
like,
they gonna do 2 more seasons?
so
'Cause
I can't.
No.
I can't
Holy
imagine
moly,
them not
there's
because
no way.
I go back to Santa Barbara. Like for me, that's the obviously, and Jessica and I always talk about this, right? Because for me, again, always thinking about the Abby part of it. So we know, again, I do think that we'll end up with, just like we've all been saying, the theater will end Allie's kind of story in that for this part of it. And then next season we'll pick up with Abby, and then we'll get the other half of it. And Jessica made a good observation where Jesse says something like Tommy went off and did something, and what he did was kill Manny, who Abby was with. And then word will get back to Abby, they'll find each other, and then there'll be that moment at the theater. But Abby still has to go through the entire, first of all, Lev, which is a huge part of the story. The Seraphites war, like on that island, where they basically set the fucking island on fire with the wolves.
The aquarium.
The aquarium part, again, to that. Also, they have to like leave. Like Abby makes a choice to like get out of there. Oh, the skyscraper part. You know how the Seraphites can travel above and not be seen in the city. And then
They
there
could
was
cut that. I'm gonna be honest.
mean,
what?
so
I'd be so mad if
I'm
they
just
cut
saying,
that.
They cut
I am trying
spores
to
from the first
think.
season for a reason. Is it there any kind of thing that's like, is this pertinent to the story? Yes, it's kind of cool that they get around that way, but aside from it being cool,
Well,
aside from giving like a little bit of a fear to Abby that does make her more human, like I'm still like, I think they could cut that.
It's a great. I just feel like of course you're right. Of course, they could cut it. You're right. No, they're not going to cut it.
So
It's
but we
great.
have
Well,
the
it's
whole
great
thing
building
of
between her and
Ellie
Lev.
fighting gosh, what is his name? Isaac too. Of
Yeah.
going past all of the wolves and all that, and
Yeah,
so it's
choosing
like
love.
So
yeah,
imagine
so it's like
if they have 7 episodes, which maybe they don't, and we were saying
think
maybe
they'll
they
go
have
more.
10, right?
I think
But
they're gonna go 10.
even if we get through all of that, we still get to the point in Santa Barbara, which we've been referencing it, that brings fucking Ellie out of retirement. That gets her back in the game. She has to go to Santa Barbara. Also, we have Abby and Lev in Santa Barbara. They're captured by, I think, the Scorpions. They have that giant compound that Ellie has to get people out of.
That part's pretty quick though.
No, it's not. But it could be a
In
really
the
cool
story,
set piece.
in a story amount, it's pretty quick.
All right.
Like,
Well, and then
the actual playthrough
but-
is definitely long,
but
but like
yeah.
it does a lot for what. That's how she finds out what happens to Abby, right? Where she finds him, and then they have the fight with. And I feel like there's no way they can't do, unless it's like a 15 episode season. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't want Abby's story to get shortchanged because there's so much to mine out of that. Like
if they take out that fight in the basement of the hospital that I almost did not pass.
Oh, the Rat
The
King.
Rat
That's a great point too.
King.
The Rat King is iconic.
That has to be in there. I almost gave up on the game.
I know, and you
They
use
will
auto aim.
definitely-
That's it's like
guys, they're definitely gonna put the Rat King in there.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah,
like
they got
they
it.
love the creature part of this. I think I'm gonna be real. I actually do think you can tell it in 10 because of the fact that for one, they already started telling it. Like we don't need to now know. Like we already know that it's her dad. That and like her reasoning behind it and the
Yeah.
whole group going out there. Like we actually have their backstory already.
Do you
So
think they're
we're
gonna
gonna-
have a flashback Abby episode because she has flashbacks too.
She does, and I think that they should. I don't know if they'll
Yeah.
have a whole episode, but I think they should show flashbacks. But if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's like this all happened over the span of what is like 3 or 4 days or something. Well, in the game, I think it was 4, but I think here it's been like 2 or 3. It feels like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been really quick. So it's like if they go through that, it's gonna be an episode like each, like day 1, day 2, day 3, or whatever, right?
I could
Like
see them definitely doing it in 10. In
that.
7,
I think in 10,
I think it's going to be rushed.
yeah,
I don't
I
know.
agree, and I think they actually can do it. I'm not gonna lie, like it's a long game, but it's just looking at how they told this part. I couldn't believe that you could tell this first half of the game in 7, and I
Yeah.
still feel like they have technically and will shortchange it, in my opinion. Like I think we are missing parts of it that are great, and that we spent time on areas that I don't think I cared about as much as I would have liked. So that's my opinion, especially because we are going to kind of rush the end. We're going to jump, like I said, it's the next part is it's like Jesse and her go back out, and then in the ideas they're supposed to be going after Tommy. Like they heard that where Tommy is, and Jesse's like, we got to get Tommy out of here. That's what was in the game, at least. Now I'm like,
Yeah.
now it's they've split up, so and then they hear that Tommy's over doing this thing and they're gonna go get him, and then that's when Ellie decides, you know what, no, I was gonna make my way to the aquarium, and they split up, and then that's how we have that, and then they show back up. Anyways, sorry, it's like a super long story, but I do think because it's just like you're not playing the game, you can just jump to these parts. It's just crazy that
Yeah.
they're doing it in
So,
one episode.
That's
It's
part of
wild to me.
that
Really wish they had split up the back flashbacks, saved this porch scene for later, and been true to it, and made the last episode into 2 episodes. Because you're right, there is a shit ton to happen,
well,
and I don't want them to rush it.
even in the trailer, you kind of get that, right? Like there's so much that's, and again, not to overstate it, but next week's will be the second to shortest episode that there is. So with all that has to be done, we have to hit SeaWorld. I guess that means we have to kill Mel.
SeaWorld, you
and-
always say
and- you know what I goddamn mean, the aquarium or whatever.
They were showing the boats and the
Thought we were in
storm,
San
right?
Diego.
And they showed it, the boardwalk. You have it. You have the lightning and
And the storm, I know.
yeah.
it's
So
so
the
cool.
it's
storm has
definitely
started.
there. So then that, and then there's just so much. So for me, all I kept thinking of, I'm dead serious, was that it's going to be shortchanged. And here's my thing about it. This is what I keep going back to, and everybody that we've talked to or that I've spoken to about Last of Us 2, there's not a lot of magic. And I think we talked about this in our group chat too. There's not a lot of magic for me in this season. And I think maybe it's because for me, I feel like it's being rushed through some of these things. But more than that, I also feel like the situation isn't allowed to breathe within the characters, within the medium that we're looking at. Granted, we got this flashback episode, and that helped a lot, but it doesn't really move where we're at currently. It doesn't help the Dina, Ellie relationship, doesn't help the Jesse relationship, Tommy, any of that shit out. So for me, it's like, yeah, it's there. It's very topical, but it's not special. And at this point, one of our friends, Jessica saw it too. It's kind of like, well, if I see this episode, I see it, and if I don't, I don't. I'm more interested to see where they end it because it sets the expectation for me on where next season's going to be, which will be out in 3 fucking years or something like that. So, yeah, there's not a lot of magic there for me right now.
Yeah, I understand that. I think every episode so far, there's been something that has disappointed me.
Yeah.
And they're so big about we only add stuff if it's going to add to the story, and think they've made some missteps. I think they've added some stuff that actually takes away from the story from me, and I think they changed the angle they were going, and I haven't seen rageful Ellie like I want to.
Yeah.
I think they moving the baby scene, and in the game when she finds out Dina's pregnant, she reacts with anger. She's like, what the hell are you doing
become a
here?
burden.
Now we have to go back.
Yeah,
You
you're a
become a
burden.
burden kind of thing. They changed that to be a happy moment in the middle of this. I don't know. She's supposed to be so angry, and I haven't seen that. And every episode, something will change, and it disappoints me. So the porch, I keep going back to the game, and I'm like, I want changes with the show. I want them to make the best show. They changed the first season. It was great, but it's not adding up for me, and I'm ending up really disappointed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, like, when you're talking about the magic of it, the most magical episode of the season is actually, to me, this one.
Yeah, that's
This had the
true.
most magic in it. But like we said, it feels like it's not pertaining at all to what's kind of going on at the moment and stuff. And I do think that these changes that they've made have affected the rest of it in the sense that you know, she isn't like think you're like the whole porch scene with the change that they did, it does change like how she would feel. Like think about that scene and now he gets killed off and she got to see it and it just feels different now. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
just like it's not it's like her having this whole feeling kind of numb and feeling like she's still figuring it out and things like that. It just like it's like no wonder they're kind of directing her in my opinion that way as opposed to being very rageful this whole time and stuff because it's like the way that we had it in the game, it's like you said, she had found out earlier, right? She found out and then she had this time to be mad at him. And then she decided, you know what, I do want to try to forgive you. And then he was taken away. And it's like, so it gives us enough there that it's like, that feels right to be rageful and to be vengeful and to do all these things. While here, it's like when you get this porch scene, the way they have built it, it does feel like it's like, you know what, her reaction of being a little bit more numb and stuff and not having, you know what I mean? Like it actually, it's like, it kind of works because she's like, she probably is conflicted. Like, I did just find out that he did officially do this stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
It's
that's
just,
kind
it's
of a
weird.
reach.
It's
That's
yeah, I'm like it gave me a reason for understanding why Bella Ramsey has been acting Ellie in the way she has been.
Yeah.
But because I played the game and I'm used to the game thing, it comes off as so unnatural to me because
Mhm.
I'm like, no, Belly, sorry,
it's
Ellie,
catching on.
oh no, Ellie's reasons are this and this and this, and in the show they're not the same, and it's throwing me off. And when I find out it's different, I'm like, oh, I guess that makes sense, but I didn't see it at the time, and I didn't like it, and it doesn't make me suddenly like those choices of
But
acting.
those are just you guys. I mean, yes, I understand that that's a train of thought, but you guys that could be very wrong, because in one of the other episodes, Mason said that Ellie as a character was capable of like tremendous violence. I think was his quote or something like that. So it's like I really feel like just the way that Ellie is being portrayed by Bella is a big part of it. Yes, the direction is
Yeah.
obviously
If he
stifling
said
Yeah.
it,
but he's
he,
saying, and
Yeah.
but if that's what he's saying, and we haven't seen that, like,
no.
I mean, who knows it? If the director thinks it, I mean, I guess what do you mean by that?
So I think in the first season they really tried to show us that, right? Like, and it felt like that more than the game. It felt like in the first season they were trying to be like, she is, she is capable of this great violence, and we got to see more of that in the first season than we saw in the first game. We were like, she didn't quite come off that way. That she was just like this really, you know what I mean? Like she was spunky, I guess, but I don't know if she was just like totally violent, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and they leaned into that. And so it's like when you do that and then you come into this and then she does something like she did to Nora, the way she takes her out, it feels like, oh, okay, well, that was in her already. And it's like, that's
Mm.
not how it felt in the game. In the game, it felt like, especially after that moment, she's really mad. She's been mad this whole time. She gets in there, she decides to torture this girl, something that she, like, you're like, damn, like, she's kind of crossing a line here. And she does feel like she crosses a line. She gets back to the theater and she is like shaken up by it. Like, she is definitely like different because of it and continues on. But I mean, it's changed her. And now it's like in this show, it's like it doesn't feel like it's changed her. It's just what they're leaning into. It's just she's capable of violence and feels whatever about it.
Yeah, I
So I
have
think that's a director thing.
that is a thing that I've been noticing too, because I keep being like, she enjoys violence. It's almost like she wants to hurt people, kind of thing. And I was like, I didn't get that feeling in the game. Like, she got very upset about her first kill in the game, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
was like very shocked. And yeah, you don't see her as someone who's, I mean, she wants to go and get all the infected and all that and go out crazy like that, but she's never like, I'm going to kill a bunch of people and torture them, and that's great and stuff. And it does kind of come off like at times they're trying to make her like a psychopath or something. And I'm like, it doesn't hit. And Bella Ramsey is acting the anger with like a blank face almost.
That's just her
It's
face.
not like a when you get angry and you furrow your brows and
Or
you like
cry
maybe
like you,
even
Lizzie.
show your teeth or like whatever. And
Nobody
she's
cries when they're angry.
Lizzie said she cried when she sang
I'm just joking.
it.
but I'm not seeing any of like if you if I imagine anyone else acting it out, I imagine a different face and a different way of expressing it. So I think whenever I see Bella Ramsey act out a scene where she's supposed to be very angry, very vengeful, it's not coming across for me and it's
Mhm.
throwing me off so bad.
I agree.
This person who is supposed to and like you said, if this isn't a change for her, if this is normal and she's always enjoyed this violence, then like where's the progression? Are we
Yeah.
supposed to feel bad? Like this is supposed to be because she lost Joel. That was like the last thing, and she's crossed this line now and she turns more
Yeah.
like Joel. But if she's been like this the whole time, then like what's the
What did
point?
it matter? Yeah. And Jessica actually, she thought about, she had mentioned that too when we first started to, if she's always been that way. And the therapist kind of says it too. Like you can't save everybody. And some people are just like orbiting their path, which is violence. But I don't think that's true. I will say this. I think you guys are absolutely right about the director. And I've been saying that from the beginning. And again, I don't know if it's the actor or the director, but I do believe that the way he sees things, and I will say it because when you watch the wrap up at the end, some of the things that they're saying does not come across. Like it's like in it might be one of those things where you're too close to the material. Obviously, him and Mason, or Druckmann obviously who created and wrote it, and then Mason who just kind of obviously did a great season one. But I think they might be too close because again, everything that they feel like comes across in spades or like, oh yeah, we really want to do this. It didn't necessarily hit with me. And so
Mhm.
I just kind of feel like that might be something, again, the director's issue. It's like, oh yeah, Bella's killing it, doing this, projecting that way. It's what I want. But maybe that's not true to how some of us see her. But that's weird because having Druckmann so closely involved, you think he would say yes or no to these things? Because this episode was strictly for Neil Druckmann. You know, he wanted everything from this episode to be, or from the game to be in this episode. That's why we got all of these things at once. I just don't get it. I really don't. I feel like, I don't know.
To me, it makes sense that he wanted to direct this episode because
Well,
it is,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh,
This
yeah.
was the last time he would have his two characters that he created like together, and like he's recreating so many moments that are specifically from the game and the feel of it and the things like that. And so I think it was a good choice for him to direct them. I think that he, like I said, there's moments in this that I really, really enjoyed. Um, other times I did think like, like I said, even though it's iconic and I'm happy that we did the little spaceship launch and we did the dinosaur moment, it's like part of me was still like, this does feel like a little bit too much fanfare, like a little too much for the gamers. Like,
Yeah.
hey, remember? You know what I mean?
Well, hold on. I
Yeah.
just want to say something real quick. You had said when we were watching it that Ellie has kind of always been infatuated with space. That's what they said on the wrap up. And knowing,
They did.
and so so take it because you had brought this up last night. And I think
Yeah,
it's important
you're
to
right.
note.
What I'm getting to is like I do think you're right. I think that like they might be too close to it. I think that might be the conclusion that I'm coming to as well because of the fact that we have seen in so many of the wrap ups or the after talks that they're saying things about it that haven't come across, and we've had several moments of that, especially in this season. I think in the first season that wasn't a problem for us, but in this season it has. And you're right. In this, I had a moment where when we're watching it, and I'm just thinking back on the episode and being like, why didn't this land for me? Like, I really enjoyed the space scene and stuff. Why don't like in the game? Why didn't I like love it as much here? There was a very emotional moment in it, and especially at the end, it seems really beautiful and stuff. There are moments in it that I really enjoy, but some of the lead up to it, I was like, why doesn't it feel as cool? And it's because he says it. He's like, Joel has taken such an interest and knows Ellie inside and out, which I agree that it's like that it should be shown. It's like, but he was like, he's like, so of course she loves like the dinosaurs and the space and this and I'm like, the thing is that like we didn't explore that in like this show. It's in the game. In the game, when you're walking around and you're doing all this stuff and you're playing things, she has like a ton of space like info and stuff. Like she's really into it. And So it's like when we get to this flashback, it does feel like it's like, oh my God, this is like a dream for her because it's something she was always questioning and interested in. Like this actually happened, but I wasn't alive for it, kind of a thing. And then this is a moment where she gets to kind of have her little experience with it. But it's like they barely touch on that. Like they did have one moment where she spewed off like a little thing to I think it's Dina about
Yeah.
like the space thing, one of the launches, but it was such a small moment. And it came after Joel had already passed. It came after, like in the timeline, it's like after this even like moment of her doing this. So it almost felt like it could stem from this. It could stem from the visit to the space thing that she now became into space. You know, she would have maybe not been into it before, but now she is. So it's like these weird things that like in the game landed perfectly for me that I was like, that this is such a cute moment for her. This is so cool. She's such a nerd about this stuff. And then it's like in the show, I was like, we haven't really touched on this. Like this Ellie doesn't talk about this stuff or doesn't seem as interested in it, you know? So I think I'm with you that they might be too close to the source material, and it becomes that moment that even when they change it, they may think these things are still coming across when it's like, no, you've made changes now, so it's not coming across the same way.
Yeah, because I mean, she's got more posters of Nirvana in her room than she does about space.
Oh my
I,
God, so much
Hey,
Nirvana.
hey,
Like it
do
was.
not
I'm
complain
not.
about the Nirvana.
Definitely
I
not.
actually
I'm
I
definitely
love
not.
Nirvana. I totally caught when they in one of the first episodes of the season, she was playing a really old Nirvana song, like one of their very first like things, which is the Love Bug one. Yeah, that's what it is called. Love Buzz. Sorry, Love Buzz.
Jessica would know this.
I was like, why did it bug? What is that? Anyways, Love Buzz. Then I was like, hey, that's cool, you know. But then the fact that they were like, let's do a Nirvana poster and put him over here, and I had a moment where I was like, okay, it's a little
Yeah.
heavy. It's a
Why didn't
little.
they put up some space posters?
That's my point. Like
She would have
that's my
loved
point.
that.
See again, going back
That would
to
have helped us so much to
yeah.
be like, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
make the connection without actually saying it, right? Like we don't need
Yeah.
exposition; we can show without telling. But again, that's kind of what we're saying. At least what I was saying in the instance where the director and the creator might be just a little too close to the source material. So, but
I think that's a
yeah.
totally
Yeah.
valid point, unfortunately. Like, you know, because it's especially for Druckmann, he's going to be so attached to the story in general, and he wasn't as involved with the writing for this season, and so I don't know if that's part of it too. If he, you know, if that's where there's some disconnect, but yeah, I don't know.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Funny.
I have to say, I understand because every after show, right after the episode plays, there's something they say that I'm like, that's what you were trying to do?
Exactly.
I didn't
Yeah.
connect with that
Exactly.
at all,
And that's a
Yeah.
kind of
problem.
thing. And yeah, it's a huge problem
Totally.
because I remember just that happening once in the first season where they said, oh, yeah, this one of the actors was supposed to be very, I don't know, just meaner and very strict and stuff. And I was like, she's got a soft face. I don't really see it. But that was it. And this season, you know, the whole Joel walking up kind of thing, that's
Yeah.
actually Jesse.
Yeah.
Like just a lot of things like the
The
anger
whole
in Ellie. I'm like,
that same
everything.
episode where they were like, you know, she's deciding to give her life basically for her or whatever that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's
Oh,
that
I
comment
yeah.
I
where
didn't
like
get
none
that.
of us.
Nobody
She
got
knows
it.
she's
Yeah.
yeah. So it's one of those things where I was like, I don't know if it's them being too close. I honestly, great episode. I just
Yeah.
think it could have been better. It
Yeah.
changed a lot of things that, yeah, we won't have that scene at the end of the game now. And if they replay it, like it's so cheap.
Yeah, no, they can't do
Um,
that. You're right. They could do that.
Yeah, just so it's
Yeah.
just like I think they should have done flashbacks. I don't think they should have done a flashback episode. Because I think the mystery too of why Ellie was so mad, now it's just gone. It's like,
Yeah.
why was she so mad? And I don't know. It was that thing of in the game, you think, oh, her last moment, she was pissed at Joel. We don't know why she was
Yeah.
pissed, but they were, you know, having a bad relationship. It ended on such a sad note. And here it's like, even though it
You
still
don't
doesn't have the same gravity of, oh, but they made up and they were gonna be okay, but they didn't get that chance.
Yeah.
It just turned into, oh, well, they were okay, but she's still mad about it to me.
it's so hard. I know they were never gonna I'm just, you know, they were never gonna nail this game. because it only works in this format in the game because it's like there's so many things that were just up in the air as a question as you're playing the game. You have zero idea why Abby does what she does. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you have no idea. We don't get that dance scene until much later in the game as well. So it's like you actually don't know what their last moments or what it felt like was their last moments together. Like, but so it's very up in the air. You're like, does she actually know? Like, he just dies so quickly. You hear that they have a strained relationship and you're like, "Oh shit, is it because she found out or what?" Like all of that is so up in the air. And then it's
Yeah.
like so you go through half of it and then you get these little peak moments of like seeing things and being like, "Oh my god, yeah, they, like it was awesome. They really became kind of father and daughter and stuff, like they really leaned into that and you just keep getting these glimpses of it and also glimpses of like, but I'm still staring off at the fireflies and I'm still having these moments of questioning. And the fact that it just unveils the way it does, it's like you weren't going to be able to do that in a show. It just wasn't going to work because, like I said, so many people would have fell off immediately. They would have been like, they just killed Joel and we have zero idea why. It's like, I think they knew that they had to justify it right off the bat. And with that, then it kind of made everything else have to fall into place. Like, I don't know. I do think they could have held off on whether she knew or not that he had done this thing. I think that would have been a good, interesting thing to keep intrigued for a while. But I don't know. I think it's just no matter what, they were not gonna do as well with this season. It's just I'm with you that I feel so like it's so complicated. There's parts of it I love. Like some of these characters are more well-rounded, like these side characters, but our main characters feel like
Oh,
less. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, and there's these good moments in this season, but I'm so with you that I'm like, I feel like I'm already disappointed. So I feel like by the end, it's gonna be hard for them to nail this ending and then let us just wait for years. It's gonna be at least a couple of years before we get another
Yeah.
season.
See, that's the
Yeah, I think
worst.
it's
I'm sorry,
oh,
Liz, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, Liz, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it's just any they've changed so many things and where they are that at this point I can't see it getting to a point that I'm happy with. So much stuff has already changed and been moved around and I hate saying it, but I am disappointed with the way Ellie is. Like you have all these great characters around her and I feel like she has not moved from season 1.
Mhm.
That's why these flashbacks I was like, "Oh my god, she's great as Kid Ellie."
Yeah.
But 19-year-old Ellie is way too close to 15, 14-year-old Ellie.
Yeah.
And and then you get Dina, who's this fully fleshed character doing all this great stuff. You see Jesse, who's turning into a leader. You see all these people, and then Ellie is just, she's Ellie. She's not even the
Yeah.
She's not
Ellie
even
she would be in the
likable.
game. She's having a totally different kind of anger. She's having totally different reactions, and it's it's just disappointing to me because I know at this point, especially, there is no going back kind of thing. There is no
Yeah.
getting that porch scene back. There is no, I'm not seeing the same character as what was in the game, and it's disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, what's great about this is that the public will let you know, right? Like when the IGN first reviewed the season before the first episode came out, and they said it was mediocre. They said it was okay, and I'm like, there's no way, that's impossible. With what's coming, it's like it's gonna be fantastic. And the way that they reviewed it was that it's very hit and miss in terms of pacing. And I absolutely agree with that. And I again, I'm going to be disappointed with I know I'm going to be disappointed. It doesn't matter how it ends because I feel like knowing and being so close to the game, you know what you're going to get shortchanged. My biggest question would be that, again, we have to find somebody that hasn't played the game and hasn't watched the fucking cutscenes, because apparently that's a thing too, where you can just watch all of the cutscenes and treat it like a movie.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
if you are just watching the TV show, how do you like it? You know what I mean? Do you give a shit about the characters? Do you give a fuck about Ellie or Joel for that matter? Or are you going to care when you see Jesse walk through the door and get his face blown off? Like, are you going to give a shit? Because I think we all give a shit, but like, does that come across as somebody who doesn't have the emotional and time investment into the game? I don't know. Again, I
It
don't.
would be
And it's real quick. Last year, again, I don't mean to ramble on about it. The Bill and Frank episode, you cared about those characters, right? Whether you played the game or not,
Yeah.
you cared about them. The brothers, you cared about those characters. Whether you played the game or not, you cared about them. In this season, the only thing I can't think of a character now that I could say the same for. You know what I mean? And so
What
that's.
about Dina? You like Dina?
But Dina. Yeah, I guess so. But you're right.
It really threw me
I
off
guess
with
so,
Dina
yeah.
being so happy about the baby and stuff. It just kind of killed the mood for me.
I had problems that whole episode. That whole episode.
I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
I'm going to
You'll-
be a dad.
Let's
Let
make
me
out.
have sex with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I
Interesting.
definitely want to do. I mean, do you think we should? I don't know if we should do like an episode in kind of where we expect the finale to go, because maybe I think we probably covered it on this one, but I definitely think we should do an episode after the finale about where next season will go. Because
I mean, we'll
Yeah,
probably
I would
talk
like-
about it during it, I'm sure. But
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would be curious to hear what people felt about this episode who haven't played the game, because I think that a lot of people who hadn't played the game were also feeling pretty disappointed by this season, in the sense of that just feeling, like that it's like that Ellie is a little young and going on this thing, and it's not quite, it just didn't feel quite right to, I think, a good amount of people, even if you didn't play the game. But definitely this episode, I'd be interested to hear what people say. Because especially there was a couple of scenes in there that I think that are great, that it's just like, would they, like the porch scene, do they feel like happy they got it? You know what I mean? And do they feel impacted by
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, that scene I think is great because it stands on its own. I also, because people love Pedro Pascal, like he is top of the world right now, right? So like when he was killed off, it wasn't like the gravity shaking event like when we referenced when Glenn was killed off from Walking Dead. But a lot of people, if you look at how they are ranked on IMDb, a lot of the episodes took a knock coming off of that. So that a few people did jump ship.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, here's the thing: having him back in this episode, kind of like you double down. So not only do you have a really emotional scene, but you also have it with probably, arguably, maybe not even arguably, the two best actors, or the best actor that's been in the series has kind of carried it up until this point. So
Lizzie, did you notice that for the opening credits, they put the two people back?
Two.
it's
I saw
it was nice. Nice.
I
We all
gotta
were
say,
like, "Oh."
yeah, I was like, oh my God, are they changing? I was like, because the last time I didn't notice or whatever, and I felt like I had noticed, and I was like, are they switching back and forth, or is this just, it's the two of them? I was like, I'm overthinking this. It's just because it's a flashback episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were like,
But I
they're
will say,
back together
Chris,
for now.
I gotta say, out of everyone, I think I'm saddest if Jesse dies. And if I was just watching the show, I don't think I'd be sad, because you
Yeah.
don't really
Eh,
see much of him at all.
I think I would actually think I might be sadder in the show than I was in the game. I'm just
Really?
gonna be.
Oh my
I
God.
didn't think
Oh
I
my
cared about him
God.
in the game. He wasn't as interesting to me. I was like, this is just some dude. Like they didn't
Yep.
seem as close. Like I was kept being like, it's nice this guy came after us, but also like, was it just for Dina, or because it makes it sound like it's for Ellie, but they didn't seem close before. Like he gets so much more in the show, honestly. I mean,
Yeah.
other than the time that they'll go off together, but even that I didn't feel attached to Jesse. I mean, it was a bit shocking that he died, but
Do you-
that was,
do
I
you
was like,
think that's-
Tommy, don't get shot. Like that was where I was
Yeah.
in the game.
Yeah.
And so I
Do
think in
you
the show,
think-
I actually would feel the reverse. I'd be like, if Tommy got shot, I'd be like, good riddance, Jesse's alive.
But do you
Like the
think that's
same.
because we played the game and then we're like meeting Jesse on top of that, or do you
No,
think
I think I legit
it's
don't,
only the show?
because the lead up to this season, when they were like announcing who's playing who, I could care less who was playing Jesse. And the whole time, like I was seeing, they were having their different interviews and stuff, and I was just like, I don't know why this guy's talking that much. He's not in it that much. He dies so quickly. Like it's, I had
Get the
zero
camera out of this
care.
guy's face. Get it out of there.
I was all like, okay, whatever. Like I did not care about Jesse in the game whatsoever. I'm just gonna be real. He just seemed like a flat character to me. Like I was like, yeah, he's the hard ass that's in charge, kind of like, you know what I mean? But he's young, and that's all right. That's kind of it
Yeah.
for him. Like I didn't have any attachment to this dude. And then so now I actually feel way different. I'm like in the show, I'm like, okay, I might actually have some feelings when he dies.
Yeah. I'm like, is that added on to, I just don't know. I was like, but I'm like, I'm the saddest, and I wonder, people who haven't played the game, how connected are they to each character? Because I feel like also if I hadn't played the game, I would not be connected to Ellie at all at this point. It's all Dina.
That's an
I'm
interesting
liking
thought.
Jesse a lot.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
Tommy in the show is less important than the
Yeah.
game right now and stuff. So it's so interesting, but it's also worrisome that your main character, I would rather Jesse live at this point.
I know. I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we should
Yeah,
probably wrap it up
wrap it
there.
up here. I do have
Yeah.
one quick note. I didn't know if either one of you knew this. And as a writer, I thought this was actually very cool. Where when Neil Druckmann was casting, and I already casted Troy Baker, he asked Troy what one of his, if you weren't an actor, what would you want to be? He said he wanted to be a musician. And because of that, that's why Joel plays guitar in the game. He wrote that in the
Aw.
game. Yeah. More to that too. He asked Ashley Johnson, who voices Ellie, what she wanted to do or what she felt like her dream would be. And she said she wanted to be an astronaut. And that's why Ellie likes space. Those,
Wow.
and I thought,
I think I remember the astronaut one. I didn't remember the musician one, funny enough.
I've never heard
Yeah.
it until it was on the podcast. That
Aw.
But I thought that was very cool that Druckmann took the time to kind of build, because those are so important to the story as a whole. And to imagine that he didn't even create that or build that into the characters and story until after they
Yeah.
had casted. And on the acting and production side, that's incredible. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
That was pretty
That's
cool.
really sweet.
Yeah.
And I mean, now it's hard to, like, especially if you play the game, it's so hard to imagine this without the music and the guitar part and stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, and I'll even be real, I don't think they have leaned into it enough in the show, even. Like, it feels like it's not there enough. But I don't know.
I wanted a flashback of him teaching her play the guitar or her
Yeah.
doing something. I just this episode feels so misplaced and kind of a wasted opportunity for me.
That's a good
It's
point.
hard.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Next week, we had the finale. It's a big one. Also, I have found, people, the game versus show key moments. So I think we should do that. And we'll be like, what did it better, the game or the
Yeah.
show?
Honestly, go back and watch I've been watching some of the clips as I watch the show, and there's quite a difference.
Yeah, right. All right. Anyway, for Chris
Jessica.
and Lizzie.
And Liz.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Whoa, you don't tell Lizzie's
Let me
name
see.
for her?
For Chris
What the hell?
Jessica.
and
Liz.
hey. All right.
Hey,
We're
hey,
out.
Hey, bye.